Hello, welcome to Catholic Life, ordinary people with extraordinary faith. I'm Deacon Jody Moscona. Thank you for joining us today. You know, many of us took a pounding because of Ida, and some of us were spared, but some of the people that took the biggest hit were a little bit east of us and a little bit north of us, and one of those parishes was St. Margaret of Scotlandville. And the associate pastor, one of my old friends, Father Paul Gros, we go way back. He and my son were best friends in grammar school, if you imagine that. But Father Paul, thank you for coming and sharing. I know you have somebody with you that's going to help you share. What we want to talk about is what happened, what we did about it, and what we're doing about it.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
yeah, well, this is Mr. Landon Goins. He's our new custodian. This past summer, we hired him at St. Margaret.
Baptism by fire.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You come in and you get a Ida.
He jumped in. Yeah. It was great having him around, having his energy around. And he was there pretty much the time we were doing the disaster relief, which we'll get to. I mean, Landon was there pretty much every day. I mean, just, helping us out tremendously. That's why I was like, when I was asked, you could bring a guest, I was like, first thing was Landon. Yeah, that'd be good. So
for those of you that are not familiar with Father Paul, he was most recently, before being transferred in July to St. Margaret, he was at St. George.
St. George, correct.
And there's so many ways that all these things fit together, because David now is there, and David was a deacon with me, and and we grew, you grew up part of our family, my son was part of your family. There's all kind of, that's, they talk about 6 degrees of separation, but in the Catholic world, I think it's 2.
It's probably less. Oh yeah, you hear it all the time. Yeah.
So
we're 1 billion small, I guess you could say, but somehow there's connections wherever you go.
Everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And so Father Paul is transferred to St. Margaret to be with Father Jamin David, and he immediately gets assigned to be part of the deacon formation program, which was pretty awesome. And so while he's there, almost right out of the bat, 2 months or 3 months later, we get hit with this tremendous storm that went up, if you know, through Homa and basically right up the gut, by you guys.
Yeah. We got basically the eastern eye wall, so we probably, winds around 120 miles an hour in our area. And Father Jamin and I were in the rectory, that night, and we could hear it. And the thing about, St. Margaret's, when the power goes out, it is dark. I mean, it is dark. So we couldn't see anything. We could just hear the trees falling, and so it was kind of terrifying. A lot of prayers that night.
I bet.
So, yeah, along with the parishioners as well, I'm sure. So
tell everybody, just orient them for St. Margaret's so they know where it's at.
So St. Margaret's is right off of I-12 at the Albany-Springfield exit, about 10 minutes before you get to Hammond eastbound. So it's about 10 minutes west of Hammond. So that's where we're right off the exit. So
and north, right?
Yeah, well, we're south.
South
South of I-12. Yeah,
okay.
You just get off the exit right there, and you turn your head to the right, and you're going to see the steeple of the church.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so it's right off the interstate, which makes it very, very nice. Well, I would say, for disaster relief, we're right on the interstate, so it makes it easy for people to get to, and so that's where we are. So we have a very large territorial boundaries, a lot of Livingston Parish that is not Immaculate Conception or French Settlement. And then a lot of the Springfield area, so down in that area. So
So some of Tangipahoa too.
Some of Tangipahoa as well. Yeah.
That's interesting. So we don't need to relive the storm except to say that it hit at night. So what you just shared, many of us went through. Not knowing where exactly it was going to hit, getting all these reports, and then when the electricity goes out.
And the phones, cell phone, So I remember that morning waking up and just no contact with anybody, looking outside my window, and just the tree damage. We must have had a tornado, several tornadoes go through there, but that was the largest, and you could chime in if you want. The largest, I think, was just the tree damage. There's so many pine trees out there, that caused a lot of damage. To St. Margaret Church itself, we were actually fared out fairly well. We had a little damage in the bell tower, leaked some water into the choir loft, and we had some fascia on our the parish hall you know, but other than that, and the Hall of Saints, which is like our administration building, we had some water leak that the drop ceiling, some of the drop ceiling fell a little bit. But I mean, considering,
Right.
you know, we fared out fairly well. Yeah, yeah.
So Landon, where were you when the storm hit?
I was actually at my house. We were at home. We stayed for the storm.
Are you near the church?
I'm about 10 minutes away from the church. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
And so you're at night, it's dark. And you lose electricity?
We did lose electricity around 8 o'clock. It was a little scary because you couldn't see anything outside, and just to hear the wind and the rain battering at everything, it was scary. But the Lord was with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So did you have a lot of damage at your house?
We lost our fence. We lost some shingles on our house, and we just had a dirty pool, and that was it. And we were praising God that it wasn't worse than that.
Yeah. So my guess is you wake up and you go, I wonder how the church did.
That was my first concern was I've got to get to Albany to check on the church and check on both of them, Father Paul and Father Jamin. I was worried sick because can't get in touch with them because communications were down. Yeah. So by the third day, I finally made it up there and checked on them, and they were okay, thank God.
We started relief as much as we could at that point, yeah.
Did you get communication back pretty quickly?
No, luckily, you know, this is just Father Jamin's foresight. He bought a hotspot for Verizon, which was able to say, okay, if AT&T goes down, we have Verizon. If Verizon goes down, we have AT&T. And so luckily, that started to work earlier. At that first day, we had nothing. We couldn't. We actually drove around to see the damage as much as we could, as far as in the approximate area. But then the interstate was open enough to where one car could go down, and so we went westbound. We went all the way to Denham Springs to get service. And it was in Denham Springs that we were able to make phone calls and post things on Facebook, you know. And
using the Verizon.
Yeah.
Because we had the same thing happen. Brian and his family came to stay with us, and we all lost AT&T, but he had Verizon. And so he's able to communicate, and we can't. So we're dependent on his phone. It's kind of, you do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do, yeah. So that was the morning of. So, it's, you know, whenever something like that happens, and as Landon said, you know, you couldn't see what was happening, but you could hear it. So we could hear crashes outside. We look at each other and what do you think that was? I don't know. Maybe one of the trees, or that could have been the bell tower. I don't know. You know, that might be the roof right there. So you're expecting, you know, some of this when you wake up. You know. So.
Hey, tell you a little story. I went to see Father French at Manresa Monday, and you know how they have those spirals on top of the chapel? One of them blew off, flipped over, and it's like stuck into the ground.
Wow, like a spear.
And they've been trying to get it out, and they need equipment to get it out. It's so it's amazing how you never know. And the rest of them weren't damaged.
Yeah.
There's like 6 of them, I think. It's amazing how it hits some things and not other things.
It is.
Yeah. So I'm interested about the church, because I know, didn't you just renovate the church?
Yeah, he did. And I think in November 2018, I believe, was that right?
18 or 19, I'm really
So it's just 2 or 3 years.
Was the rededication of the church with the bishop. So it was very recent, you know, so you can imagine.
And if I remember, it was a major renovation.
It was a major renovation, multi-million-dollar renovation. Very beautiful. He extended the church about 20 feet, just redid everything. So it's got a traditional feel, but it's kept the traditional look, but a new feel. You know, you could tell when you walk in that, it's got a fresh kind of look, but yet it's still very traditional, as the church, you know, has always been. And that's what the people wanted. You know, they wanted to give a facelift to their church rather than build a new church. So,
right.
Yeah. And it's come out beautiful.
And so the damage to the church was minimal, right?
It was minimal, yeah.
So have you been able to remedy or mitigate all that?
Yes, sir. The only major damage structural-wise was the cross on the back. It just got a little bent, but nothing really, too bad where we couldn't have mass or anything like that.
Yeah, we actually had mass, not that Monday, but Tuesday we were able to have daily mass. There's a handful of people there, but without power.
Nice.
Yeah, we just said, you know what, we need to try to get some normalcy. People are going to be looking for that, you know, during this time as they're rebuilding and recovering. So we need to do Mass in the mornings. And as word got out, again, we couldn't advertise that because we had no communication, but as word got out, more and more people started coming, despite not having, air conditioner, So,
right. That's awesome.
And so we did that. So we would have daily Mass at 7 a.m. And then pretty much right after that, we'd hit the ground running because we opened up a supply store in our hall. Started out very small, maybe with 3 fold-out tables, and end up with all of our fold-out tables.
Yes.
So once word got out that we were doing this, especially from our previous parishes we had been at, Aloysius and St. George, they came a lot of. Once word got out that hey, these folks, just 30 minutes east of us got hit a lot harder than we did. I mean, they started coming with just truckloads, and the food bank came with truckloads. Catholic Charities from Lake Charles showed up with, not an 18-wheeler, but a huge truck full of, pallets, food and water. And we probably went through, thousands of pounds of food and supplies, thousands. It was amazing to see.
So as you were driving around trying to look, did you get a sense for how bad off the people's got hit, like the extent of the damage?
Yeah. To be honest with you, it was hard because we couldn't get down certain, a lot of these roads are wooded. So they were so, you couldn't
Trees
see.
Across the roof.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the most concerning thing was like, we could have people trapped in their homes and we just didn't know it. We can't get in touch with anybody. And I think, because Father James would often compare this to the 2016 flood because St. Margaret's was a disaster relief area as well.
Right.
Which by the way, he told me later on that St. Margaret of Scotland is actually one of the patronesses of disaster relief. So it's like, Jesus, like. So he would compare and he said what made this one so difficult was the lack of communication. He couldn't get and communicate with parishioners. And so because we have such a large territorial boundaries and so much of it is wooded, we just couldn't get there. And so it was hard to see. I mean, we could see obviously the light poles and stuff in our area, but as far as getting to like some of these back roads, it was hard. We just had to wait for days,
Yeah, and for those of us watching that were in Baton Rouge, we felt bad because we lost electricity for a few days, maybe a week, but these poor people were out of communication, out of electricity for an extended period of time. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I do want to get into the logistics of how things happen and then talk about where we go from here, okay? You're watching Catholic Life, ordinary people with extraordinary faith, and we're talking about Ida and the relief after that. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Father Joshua Johnson. I am the Vocation Director for the Diocese of Baton Rouge. God our Father created each and every single one of us, you and I, for no other reason than because God desires for us to become saints. That is our primary vocation, to become a saint forever in the kingdom of heaven for all eternity with God. But for some of us, our path to becoming a saint is going to be through the state of life vocation of the priesthood of Jesus Christ. If you believe that God might be calling you, if you have a thought, hey, look, God might be inviting me to discern the priesthood of Jesus Christ as my path to becoming a saint, to help other people become saints in their walk toward eternity, then I want to invite you to reach out to me at our office of vocations here at the Diocese of Baton Rouge so that we can walk with each other. I can accompany you in your discernment, in your prayer, and learning more about the gift of the priesthood of Jesus Christ so that you can discern, is God inviting you to walk toward eternity as a priest of Jesus Christ.
Join us for another great season of Beacons of Light where we'll explore how we overcame the COVID-19 pandemic in serving people in situations of homelessness and poverty, how our volunteers in this local diocese put their love and faith into action and made a real difference by providing God's love to those in need. Join us on Catholic Life Television.
Welcome back to Catholic Life, Ordinary People with Extraordinary Faith. We're talking to Father Paul Gros and Landon Goings. They're both from St. Margaret of Scotlandville, which is kind of off of I-12 near the Springfield exit, and they got hit very hard with the storm. But you know, in the throes of all of that, you can be a giver. Mm-hmm. And you guys immediately jumped in and became a hub, and we all saw the pictures, of it, and it's amazing what y'all do. Tell us a little bit. When we left off, your old parishes were flooding you with stuff, and I'm sure you kept getting stuff.
We did, yeah. So as we mentioned before the break, we had started with about three tables
and all of our supplies from our St. Vincent de Paul pantry.
Mm-hmm. Pulled out the St. Vincent de Paul, the youth group pantry, everything got pulled out. And as word spread, especially in the Baton Rouge parishes, Holy Rosary got word, more and more stuff started showing up, and it was amazing. Like, and you hear this all the time with God, like when things started getting low,
another truck
would pull up, And I mean, from morning, we'd start off morning with just, tables full of food, supplies, toiletries. We had pallets of water, probably went through 20 pallets of water. Even stuff, like dog food, cat food, pet food. And by the end of the day, it was like wiped out. And it just grew as the days went. We did this about 12 days or so, like 10 days or so. As time went on, more, of course, word spreads. More people, and tarps do as well. More and more people started coming. And
so y'all had tarps to give out?
We did. We probably went through, 300 tarps, 400 tarps.
So the difficulty there was, we got a call asking if we had tarps. And I didn't even think about, should we go get tarps? I mean, it wasn't on my radar screen, but people were also asking for help putting them up.
Oh goodness.
And I didn't know how to do that. What to do about that. So we just started collecting, and watching, and we pointed our direction to Homa. And
eventually that's what we did. Once we closed down the store, all of our resources went down to Homa.
So it took you all about 12 days to get your people kind of situated, and then did you keep collecting?
We did.
Homa?
We kept collecting. We told people we're now going to be, because people have so been generous to us in our community, we're asking you now, if you're able, to now, we paired up with the church in Dulac, Holy Family, with Father Antonio there, and we started collecting items for them as well. And I mean, sure enough, we got thousands of dollars worth of gift cards and generators and window AC units, box fans. Those are things, cots, any of those things, air mattresses. So we started collecting for them and sending all that down there. So one thing I do want to mention too, I forgot to mention, in those 10, 12 days, we also had hot lunches. We served between 500 to about 1,200 a day hot lunches from different communities, parishes in Baton Rouge.
People came and did jambalayas.
We had pasta, we had red beans, hamburgers. Yeah, we tried to mix it up. Other than jambalaya every day. So,
I know, you don't want.
Yeah. But man, it was great. It was great. And we had we had some beautiful days too. It rained a couple times, but we had some beautiful days the Lord blessed us with. And
it's just amazing. In our food pantry, we're in a unique little place in St. Teresa where we are, we really can't do like a food kitchen kind of thing, but we can distribute. And we have to screen everybody. You got to do it government-wide, all that kind of stuff. Well, when this happens, you just open it up. Whoever comes, you can get it. And we found out that is that whole philosophy of we don't give to people because they're Catholic, we give to people because we're Catholic.
I love that.
So whoever comes, and that's the nature of who we are.
Exactly.
I love the fact that you guys distributed like that. Now tell us about the people in Dulac.
Yeah. Did you go down?
I didn't go down to Dulac.
Okay.
We just got some supplies.
So are your knights driving it down?
They were, yeah. So we had
the
knights, the Lady Auxiliary went down, and parishioners have gone down. We also have had some of our families pair up with individual families there.
Oh,
we've had about 12. And then I called basically all these families, what are your needs exactly? I wrote them all down. and then we give those needs to families in our parish, and have them contact, and so they can give them individual needs, individual attention. Yeah, that's what we've done. So, but yeah. But you mentioned reaching out to all people in community. I mean, we had Catholics and non-Catholics come by, and very grateful. Very grateful, and I was able to. Some people even came by just, well, I don't need anything, I just need prayer. So I was like, I can do that and give you a blessing, and let's just pray. Awesome. So they were very grateful. Yeah, very, very grateful. And that really helps just spread the gospel.
Absolutely.
That's why we're there.
It is the gospel.
And exactly, it is the gospel. And that's why we're there. And people just can remember, even not Catholic. I remember the Catholic Church, and whenever we were in need. And so it was very heartwarming, to be Christ to those people, the face of Christ.
So you think you will move there for this?
Yeah. Think about that. It was obviously how God's providence works. It was good for me. Father Jamin has done disastrously before with the 2016 flood, so he kind of had an idea of what needs to be done. He's so good at that with his organization communication skills. So it was good for me to kind of see him at work and fall underneath there and play my part, what I had to offer. Exactly, what I had to offer there, and especially with connections from all my previous parishes. So Napoleonville showed up. Once they got back on their feet, Napoleonville, Labadeville showed up with folks. So of course St. George showed up with folks. So it was good to have all parishioners showing up, So
that's awesome.
And they helped us out a lot. So, but yeah.
God has a way of knowing the end before the beginning.
Absolutely.
You're right about that.
Yeah, and having you there as a new employee. And
so yeah, we didn't even cover that. So you started just a few months before.
Yes, sir.
And I know I said baptism by fire, but when you showed up a couple days later, did you immediately survey the property and do all that kind of, I can only imagine what that must have been like.
Yes, sir. My number one thing was getting to the church, but the second thing was the church building itself okay, and were y'all okay? And when I got there, it was just instant relief, and just like, what do we do now? Let's get rolling. So we opened up, and that's where we led off to.
Well, it's kind of a blessing that your facilities were still intact, because if you had dilapidated facilities, you wouldn't have been able to service the way you did. So it's kind of, it's good that our churches and our buildings are strong, the way we build them.
Yeah, absolutely. And he said, that church was built, about over 100 years ago by the Hungarians that came in, and they built it strong,
Absolutely.
It's he was telling me how the structure, this is where I'd want to be during a hurricane, so. And you can see that because, we have a huge field that we own right in front before we get to Highway 43, which is the main road that runs into I-12. And the wind was coming eastbound, so it was blowing right against the facade of the church. I mean, right against. It was like acting as a parachute for this wind that was coming. All the trees behind us got destroyed. And so we thought for sure the window's blowing out, the bell tower's probably down because the wind was coming right against the facade. And sure enough, not even a window, nothing. It was not amazing, I'm just grateful for that. And then you can see the holy angels, I like to say, were protecting our property so that we could serve those, who did have damage. And be that relief for them. Again, be the hands, the feet, the face of Christ for them.
So let's, this is me, let's spend a couple minutes on that, the heart part of it. What are we called to do? Why are we called? Teach us.
Yeah,
teach us through this experience.
I've preached on this many a times on what Mother Teresa would always say, you did it to me. Matthew 25, what you did for the least of my brothers and sisters, you did for me, right? And so from that place of God loving me, he calls us out to love others with his love, right? With what we've been received, what we have been given, we're asked to return to those who come to you, right? To be a part of God's love in that way, right? So giving out whatever supplies and just being that warm face, that face of welcome and smile, is humbling to be his instrument in that way, And so people would thank us, thank you so much for doing this. And we say, well, just praise God, right? This is all His doing. Because He keeps showing up with supplies when we need it. And it's all how much it's a small smidgen of how much He loves you and how He's with you in the midst of this disaster. When when something like that happens, we begin to question, where is God in this? Like how, like, is He punishing me? Did I do something wrong? And I help them see, like, find Him in the love that others show you, and people reaching out and helping you, like He's there in that. And so being a part of that was humbling, that's our call. That's our call. And we have to, so often in the Gospels and then also in the Acts of the Apostles, what did St. Paul often, don't forget the poor, don't forget the marginalized, don't forget those who are in need, all right? So, so
it's amazing how we think about the poor, like in our brain, those are the people that are on welfare. And then all of a sudden, you have a disaster hit and people are poor. And not in a money sense, but in a physical sense. Because things that they had, they have no more. And so we're not just called to take care of the people that are penniless, we're called to take care of the people that are in need.
In need, exactly. Material need, but also emotional and spiritual need at the time, right?
Absolutely.
You feel that, you sense that poverty, if you will, whenever the rug's been pulled out from underneath you and your life is now turned upside down, right? Your house has a tree through it, and you're living with a relative or you're living with, somebody, and just everything has been turned upside down in a moment's time, in one day, and so being that kind of that face of hope, I think for a lot of people, especially as they were coming through the lines.
Thank you.
And just with the hot lunches we were offering.
So we got a little less than a minute. What do you need people to do for you? Do you need them to send you?
At this point, I would say we're pretty much back on our feet. St. Margaret's is. As far as supplies go, we've made 2 or 3 deliveries down to Duloc already, and so we're good there. If they want to send financial donations, we've been donating to Duloc and their needs, but then also we're helping out people, especially professional cleaning yards and those kind of things. So that's really about, but prayer would be the biggest thing,
So go to the website, you go to Diocese website, look for St. Margaret of Scotland, and you can get the contact information, help them out in any way that you can. It's been great to have you all here.
Thank you, Deacon Jody.
Thank you.
I appreciate what you said about the gospel. It's awesome. So thanks again. And thank you for joining us today. We're so glad that you visited with us, and if you can help in any way, please do. Till next time, God bless everybody.